and I'm here with three incredible guys from the football industry. Luke Wilson, just give a 2-minute pitch about who you are and what you're doing at your club.
Cool. Morning, everyone. So I'm Luke Wilson. I'm Chief Commercial Officer at Millwall Football Club. Been there for just coming up to 2 years now. So Millwall, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most people do know, but we're a club in the Championship, so the EFL Championship in the UK. We've been in the Championship now, I think 5-6 seasons. Quite a stable sort of club in the Championship. Probably one of the, I suppose, most exciting times probably of our sort of recent evolution. I think we've just come off the back of a fairly successful season, just missed out on the playoffs. Obviously, every club in the EFL wants to get to the Premier League and sort of to the promised land, as it were. Narrowly missed out last day of the season, but we feel like we're in pretty good space, I suppose, commercially and also on the pitch. There's a bit of a buzz around the club. We've had a new chairman in for the last couple of years, so out of sort of sad circumstances, our current chairman came to the fore and has a really sort of quite progressive outlook on what he wants to do with the club. So very much about now trying to bring the age of the squad down, investing in youth, really trying to sort of bring in a model similar to what Brighton, Brentford have done, that served them well to get into the Premier League. But really, bring in exciting young talent, sell them on, and kind of make a profit. But also really have a pop over the next sort of 3 to 5 years at getting into the Premier League. And then commercially off the field, myself and Mark, our MD, is here today. As part of the sort of leadership team, we were really working to try and drive a bit of progressive sort of change within the club. There's been really good work done at the club over the last 10, 15 years in terms of trying to move away from probably quite an outdated perception of the club, and I think a lot of people have had to work probably doubly hard within the club to move away from that. But what we've never really done is shouted about it, and I think now what we're trying to do is talk about the good stuff that we do within the community, what we do from a business perspective, and from a commercial perspective, we're really trying to drive quite a progressive and innovative outlook. So really just be quite open to doing new things with partners, whether that's in the licensing space, whether it's in partnerships, and really just push the club on. It's a competitive league. It's a hard league to get out of, but there's a lot of clubs within our division and around us that we all have probably quite similar setups from a community perspective or similar sort of fan base. But how can we drive that point of difference? And I think we can drive that commercially by being a bit different and really having that open outlook. And then, as I say, combined with our sort of London location and some of the good stuff we're doing as a club, I think that makes us quite an attractive proposition. So, yeah, hopefully a really exciting sort of point in our history. Hopefully over the next couple of years only gets bigger and better. But, yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
Great. Stephen Ibbotson.
Hi, good morning, guys. I've been with LALIGA, Spanish Football League, for about 6 years now, working in licensing. Basically, our commercial aspect is TV rights, sponsorships or partnerships, and then licensing. We have fun. We have a double challenge. We don't want to step on the toes of the clubs, obviously, with the IP rights of the clubs. So the challenge is to create our own brand, to add value to La Liga brand, whilst at the same time pushing opportunities for all of the clubs involved. We are in Spain probably a step below the clubs. Everyone in Spain obviously follows their respective clubs. So our challenge and our opportunities lie more on an international level rather than locally in Spain.
Great. Andrew Reith.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Reith. I'm the founder and CEO of Zenith Coins Limited, and I've been running the business for 5 years now. I run it out of Scotland, a small town on the west coast called Troon. You may know it if you're a golfer. But yeah, it was an interesting start. So I set up Zenith Coins through pretty much necessity, really. I was living down in the south of France and working on weddings and events when COVID hit. Had to move back, and there was nothing really available at that stage. But my good friend Alistair, he would send me these challenge coins from all his operational tours. He worked in the RAF. He was a fast jet pilot with Tornadoes, and got all these challenge coins. And I thought, there's something here, maybe within sport. So that's when I adopted the coins. Now I brought them into the world of football and sport in general. My very first license was with the British and Irish Lions. So it's quite a good equilibrium where you're bringing in the English, Scottish, Irish, and the Welsh. So there's no real divide if you say Tottenham and Arsenal, for example, Rangers, Celtic. So it was a really nice platform to start off with, and that gave us the credibility to venture into a lot of different sports, which is Arsenal being next. Our products are very niche. In America, they've been generating coins since the early 70s, and they look at about $90 million a year just on sports coins. So they knew there was a gap there in UK, Europe, and Australasia. So I ran a 3-month comprehensive market research program on there to find the right demographics, the right price point. And 5 years later, we sit here with over 400 clubs worldwide, from the All Blacks, Rangers, Celtic, you've got Arsenal, Chelsea, and various others. And our new innovation is NFC coins, so we can actually tap onto the coins themselves and take you straight to a URL, give you some video highlights, some footage, message from a CEO. Great for corporate and commercial endeavors.
And that's a great place to start off with, your world, to actually blend the physical and the digital world. That's actually what you're trying to do, right? With the coins. How do you make the experience more than just a collectible? Is that like the message from the CEO, or what are the opportunities and options over there?
So when we first started, this was not possible. We had to run 9 months of market research and product development to get the NFC working, because the metal actually nullified the antenna within the NFC. But we've come up with a system now that it can actually work. The collectible coin market is colossal. It's huge. And it's really been untapped within the UK, Europe, and Australasia. Luckily, we have that platform now that we can really push. But where we come in with the innovative digital aspect and merging both together, it just allows the fans to become a little bit more closer to the club as well. So it could be, for example, Manchester United, Club Brugge, Sunderland could be launching their VIP hospitality coins next year, but all dedicated to individual matches. So you go to the game in hospitality, you have all the images of your day there, the video footage as well, or even sponsorship. We can actually place the latest Porsche model onto a coin you tap onto, and that's the latest car. You've got 3D aspect of it and everything, yeah.
Amazing. Luke, what's your view on innovations like this? How could it bring value to you as a club?
Well, full disclosure, we're looking to work with Andrew and Zenith. But I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but I mean, growing up as a football fan myself, I remember collecting coins. I remember collecting Panini stickers, Merlin stickers. You know, that market hasn't gone away. That's there now, and we talk a lot about younger audiences and what they're collecting and how they're working with different products. And you know, if you get into the world of FIFA Ultimate Team and things like that, and the collectible market is still there. It's only got bigger. It's just evolved slightly in how people interact with it. And I think, you know, we talked about it a little bit before as well in terms of what's that sort of digital augmentation with the physical product? So is it a physical product and then you have the NFC and you have something on there that actually adds value? Or is it a fully digital product for a younger market? What I quite like about, I suppose, when we talk about the coins and the NFC element is it allows you to tap into both markets. So we know that we're going to have a solid market around the club for collecting a collectible coin. We're going into our 140th anniversary year. It feels like it's a no-brainer to do a collectible coin. If we add NFC to that, does that then allow us to tap into a slightly younger audience that maybe wouldn't necessarily go for a coin itself, or add a layer of interactivity to that might then bring us to a different market, just the wider collectible market, and bring new fans into us? So that's the bit that I find interesting, particularly with that as a product. And I think that then gets into the realm of, okay, what data can we get from that? Who can we kind of then interact with you know, through those links? What can we learn about those fans? What can we then deliver as an experience there? That brings it into a different generation, I suppose, really. So I think that's a really interesting thing that we see. And I think NFC, and we talked about this a little bit before as well, and last night, I think sometimes people slap it on and it becomes, we're going to do this because it's the latest technology, but there's no real use case or understanding of actually what the benefit is to the fan. I think if you go back to all the good partnerships and everything that you do as a club that works, it's starting from that position of actually how do we deliver a fan benefit. And actually if there is something extra there, so it's even if it's just a certificate of authenticity, forever stored on the blockchain, so actually that piece of paper, that flimsy bit of paper you get with a signed shirt or with a coin or whatever that you lose 10 minutes after you've got it, if that's already there and actually it gives you that future kind of value attached to the product, that's a tangible benefit. So then it becomes something that people will value. But there's so much more we can do, from that perspective. And if it's personalised experiences, it's content, things like that, that really then becomes an added value layer. And I think that's when you start tapping into, a product that feels like it's going to be commercially viable, but also really attractive to a fan.
Yeah, and I can imagine this works brilliantly for kind of every club, right? How is it from a league perspective, Stephen?
With reference to La Liga, just a couple of things here, and from the, I believe it's a league perspective. Firstly, in our specific case, having a partner, not only a title partner, but one of the biggest partners for La Liga, EA Sports, we've got to be careful with what we're looking at in terms of NFTs and how, again, we don't want to tread on the toes of the clubs as far as the IP rights. However, we were having the conversation just 5 minutes ago. One of our partners, Avery Dennison, the partners for our badges and names and numbers, we are discussing ways which we can look into this technology on the badge, actually put on an NFC. But then it's up to the individual, the respective clubs, to actually make the most of it. We can put let's say the tools or the technology, make it available to all the clubs, and then it's up to them to creatively use it in whichever way they feel.
And can it then help with opening new markets? Because I know you are looking massively at the US market, the Asian market, MENA region. Can it help attracting new customers, or do you think it's more a new experience for the current fans?
Put it this way. A club will normally pull on heritage and implement whatever the activity or licensing or partnership opportunities on a vertical level with reference to the club. We can't obviously do that as a league. We've got to look at this horizontally, although, yes, we've got the mandate to promote and to commercially exploit La Liga, but the most important thing here is equal representation. So we can't just pull off, be more or seen to be more favorite to one club than another, etc. And we all know which are the clubs that have international recognition from La Liga, but we've got the responsibility to all the clubs. So based on that, whereas the clubs will go vertical, we have to create this type of, let's call it a horizontal ecosystem, where you've got the clubs in the center of it, the hardcore fans, the actual competitions, the first and the second division of the Spanish professional football, and then what we call spin-offs on those competitions, which is the same clubs that participate in those two competitions. They can have teams in FC Pro, which is the e-games competition in La Liga in Spain. You've got La Liga Genuine, you've got La Liga Futures, which is the youth football. And then you begin to build around those in terms of engagement and in terms of other platforms in order to use the content that we're trying to create. So we're looking at OMG, which is Oh My Goal, La Liga Music Experience at concerts at the end of the season, La Liga 29s, which are the sports bars, or even La Liga Exhibition. Now, with all of that, if we take that on a global level, then yes. For example, why not a fan base in Australia that is a fan of Betis or Sevilla? Why not be the institution or La Liga to take information about Betis and Sevilla there? So if they can get their shirts with a badge that can be scanned, or the NFC can go straight into the content there for them, much better and much more. Let's say the actual clubs will become the smaller clubs will become much more well known on a global level.
Yeah, exactly. Because I can imagine for the bigger clubs, it's great to bring this to their current fans on top of the current experience. But I can imagine for new clubs or lower ranked clubs, but with a great story to tell, it can open many doors for them as well, right? With your product.
Yeah. So when we initially started, we got a lot of big clubs, elite clubs across the world. So the issue we had initially was the smaller clubs. Do we have the right fan base for this? Is the product correct for every club? So we would produce very small limited editions for, let's say, Chorley or Elgin City, Ayr United, and they would immediately sell out. I mean, Blackpool, Notts County and various others are on their 4th, 5th edition of Coin because they've created a new audience. The product in itself is treasurable, and they want, once they have one, they want the second, and they collect from there. Wrexham Football Club, when we tried to get into them 3 years ago, weren't too keen. They weren't too enamored by the product itself. So that was fine. That was no problem at all. But when they got back-to-back promotion last year, they said, we'll go for a very small limited edition mount. I think it's about 500 units. And they sold out in 20 minutes. Now, they've got a huge American following now. I think the growth rate was staggering. They had maybe 125,000 social media followers, as up to 25 million. So we're speaking to the club just now, and they've just signed off on all products and commemorative coins for their US market as well, which is great.
Wow.
So yeah, it works on all levels, from small clubs all the way up to elite.
Yeah, and as Steven says, it's a different approach from a league perspective. But I can imagine if you're a football fan and you're traveling all around the world, it's great to have a product like this, right? And to collect all your travel experiences within this product.
Yeah, correct. So we produced a coin for the farewell to Goodison. So we came up with the concept, spoke to Everton Football Clubs, they listen, this deserves a coin. It's a very emotional time for all the fans that have had Goodison Park since 1892, so it's a historic establishment. And they said, let's go for it. Fanatics, I'm sure you're all aware of, we're really keen to work with Fanatics on a close partnership basis. They said they don't have any sales data based in the UK for coins. And I said, well, look, go for 250, see what you think, and that's what they did. 5 hours later, they phoned me up. They've almost sold out of the entire limited edition. So this shows there's a demand there from the fans to have collectibles in their household. But yeah.
Yeah. In terms of data, I can imagine data helps you a lot, Luke, with making decisions within licensing. Can you give an example how it helps you with bringing commercial efforts?
Yeah, I mean, everything we're doing at the moment goes back to data. I mean, every club works in that basis. And, you know, a previous lifetime, I worked at Arsenal for 4 or 5 years. I've worked on the Champions League. Those principles are the same there as they are for us as a smaller club. We're probably just a bit further back in that journey than maybe some of those are. But the more you know about your fans, the more you can personalise that experience. We're all very well versed in talking in those same terms. But it is, you know, the biggest probably transformational piece for us, I think, has been into implementing our single sign-on process, because it just brings everything into one bucket. And when I was at Arsenal, we spent about £3 million working with IBM to overhaul our CRM system. And actually that now is at the core of everything we do. Every product we're putting out, we're putting through our CRM system. We are marketing to our fans. We're trying to bring that through a personalised experience. So every licensing decision that kind of powers and fuels that is kind of just, you know, going into that same funnel. You may have seen we launched our own mobile network recently, so we were the first club in the UK to do that. That's a model that's worked for other clubs. So in Brazil, they've had that for AC Milan. So there's other clubs that have done that similarly, but the first club in the UK to do that. But part of the rationale behind doing that is it not only gives us a new comms channel for talking to our fans, so it brings SMS into the picture, it also gives us the data. So one of the core things was actually when we were selecting the partner to work with on that was, can we integrate our SSO into that? So now, as a fan, if you want to go and sign up for a contract, they're a 30-day rolling contract. The sign-up process is like 2-3 minutes. So you can have a physical SIM sent to you, or now because of eSIMs, it's so simple. You know, if you're going away tomorrow, because of the network we work on, free roaming. Obviously, since Brexit, unfortunately for the UK, it costs us now to roam abroad, but with the network we run on, it can be included in your package. So you can set up a new number, in 3 minutes as a fan. And we then get that data through that process, but it also speeds up the process for the user. So there's dual benefit there. It makes it really simple for you as a fan to kind of get on board with that. But then for us as a club, we're now able to see, okay, right, so Lucas, you are a fan. You've bought a ticket from us for this day. You're a season ticket holder, but also now you're a subscriber to Millwall Mobile. So we've got that data. We're building a picture of you, but we're also then putting that all into the same system to be able to then remarket back to you. And as I say, then that allows us to then reward those fans as well. So from something which is quite a basic product, we all have a phone, we all have a SIM, and we all have a contract. Now, if we can own that relationship, then not only can we drive revenue from that and drive it on a consistent basis without even having to do anything. As soon as they're into the ecosystem, they're there and they're paying every month. But it also gives us that new way to reward them. So we'll do periodic things where we'll pick out subscribers and give them a rebate 1 month. And we're trying to do that as much of a surprise as possible to also drive a bit of kind of intrigue around it. Or it'll be things like tickets and sort of more standard giveaways. But again, that's a tangible benefit. We've all got a mobile phone contract. If that is with your club, and actually you can kind of show your support through it, but you can also be rewarded for doing it, then I think that really, again, adds benefit to the fans. So it goes back to that same principle of how do we start from a fan benefit perspective, but how can we also learn more about our fans and empower that ecosystem of data behind it.
Attract more data, but also give a more personalized experience in a great way. Steven, how's that with La Liga? Because I know you have delegates all over the world. You get your digital data. How does that work in the world of La Liga?
Okay. Roughly about 8 years ago, La Liga set up an international project, which was to have over 60 delegates spread out throughout the world. Actually, employees of La Liga, but living and working in sort of 60 different countries spread out around the world. Now, let's go back to the question of data and insights. As I said previously, La Liga in Spain is one thing, and if you've got Spanish fans, they will tend to follow more their clubs rather than the league in Spain. Internationally, La Liga takes on a completely different perspective because we're the ones that are pushing the clubs on an international level. Okay, so with data coming in and the insights being drawn in Madrid, we felt it wasn't enough. We really needed to have on-the-ground information and to try to meet expectations of those fans spread out all over the world. So part of the responsibilities or the objectives of this international team of La Liga delegates was to actually or validate the insights that we were drawing up in Madrid, or challenge the insights that we were developing in Madrid.
Right.
And in various occasions, they would actually challenge the insights that were drawn from the data that we had in Madrid. But then, as soon as the challenge came in, we subsequently ran another research in that specific market, a much deeper research, and in most occasions, it ended up giving, the delegate was actually right with the information or the challenge of the insights that we had. So it's a highly important aspect of our international expansion, and the promotion of the clubs on a global level. But it will always be, let's say, a La Liga delegate will always receive a phone call or an email to validate the insights that we've managed to get in Madrid, always.
Which is a great system because you try to expand worldwide, but you're really going deep into several markets to get information from the inside out. Let's put it that way.
It's not only research. We're now, let's say, communicating in 20 different social networks in 18 languages. So I don't know if you'll agree, but social networks are also an incredible source of data and mostly of insights. And that, again, validated with the respective delegates. It's amazing, the information that you can pick up from that.
And what role plays content in that case? Because you have a lot of you need a lot of content to actually communicate with your different communities on social platforms. I can imagine you have the same look with your club. What kind of role does it play? Stephen, sorry.
To us,
yeah,
it's a mega role, content. Again, because we've got to have equal representation and we could not step into the territory of the clubs. So in developing the La Liga brand and the IP, we really need to draw on this horizontal, what I explained before, the clubs going vertically, implementing vertically. We need to look at a horizontal type implementation, because the more content we actually create, the bigger fan base we can reach with that content. For example, let's say youth, 14, 15-year-olds today, they're actually watching a game on television, communicating with their friends on the mobile, and playing, FC Pro or whatever on the PlayStation. So it's a 3-screen individual. So what content can we produce or should we produce to target more specifically that particular group of individuals, to bring them closer to what La Liga can offer? And you can only bring them closer if you can offer that specific content that will make them or their generation come closer. Yeah. So in terms of content, you've got to look at what actually La Liga, the competition, can do. I mean, you've got obviously the Clásico, the biggest game, but then again, you've got the heated derbies, the Sevilla City derby. That's a crazy game. The Basque Country derby between Athletic Club and Real Sociedad. That's also another huge interest game. And going back to all of these delegates that feed in the information, you've got potentially a group of fans, a big enough group of fans in Southeast Asia, for example, that come in and they want, let's say, an expectation to have, why not, a watch party set up by La Liga for the Athletic Club and Real Sociedad game there, and then you're just picking up on those fans and sharing that information with the clubs as well. So it just feeds on all of the clubs as well, to let them go out there and grow their fan base also out there, and their commercial opportunities as well. Right.
And what's your view on this, Luke, from
Yeah, I mean, content's a really wide-ranging kind of catch-all term, isn't it, I guess? But I think for us as a club, we've always done, we'll always do the sort of the match highlights, the standard sort of content. I think probably where we start to see, from a club perspective, some differentiation is, I mean, even things like memes and actually being more casual around actually how we engage with fans. Sometimes that can drive a bit of PR and fame for us as a club beyond our sort of borders. So we'll look at that kind of content, and that again is more young audiences. It's that sort of targeted stuff that actually will get picked up, and I suppose feeds off the back of the rivalries within the league as well. We did some stuff with a partner as well. So our front of shirt partner, we launched a co-branded card with us, and we did some kind of I suppose social first content, which was kind of tapping into sort of film references and things like that, and that was quite popular. So we're trying to be quite nimble on that front and not be too heavily overproduced. But then you have to work across the spectrum as well, because again we've got a kit launch coming up. We'll be working on actually a properly produced piece of kit of content to launch that with. So again, in collaboration with partners, but that is a club-driven piece of content to really talk about who we are as a club, what our ethos is, that community kind of base to what we do. So that's more polished. So you really kind of work across the spectrum, and then I suppose at the other end as well, as a club, we're looking to now branch into more around, I suppose, tying into our overarching philosophy of what we're doing with youth and academy, and bring more of a sort of behind-the-scenes look into what the club's doing in those spaces, and actually those journey of the next generation of players. in January we sold a player for a club record transfer fee who's been with us since he was 7. So it's a real success story of our academy and how we've brought talent through. We want to tell the story of the next generation of talent, and that's a bit about what we're trying to do as a club, and that bringing youth talent through, giving them a pathway, and saying that actually if you come to us at 6, 7, you're going to be in the first team one day, and actually we can give you that pathway. And that's a great story to tell new signings when we're in the market for transfers as well, to say that actually okay, you can come in at 16, 17, 18, but you will play for our first team if you're good enough. It's not about your age. So that then ties into, from a marketing and a commercial perspective, that pride in the club. And fans being able to say, actually, look, he's one of our own, and he's come through the academy. So it's all within the same sort of sphere, but I think it's just looking at different audiences and actually looking at what's the story we're trying to tell in different markets and in different ways. And internationally, we have good international reach, but we probably haven't actually expanded that over time. Probably for us, it's not on the same scale as La Liga, but it will be targeted market by market, and actually where we bring partners in and we've got a reason to work in that market. What we want to do is actually be really open to doing some cool and exciting stuff. So if that was a watch party for a certain game or something, we would do that with a partner in a given market, but we would go into that market around it and invest in that as a club, but with a partner in that market, because we probably would need that. But I think the key part of all of that is the flexibility. If we've got that kind of innovative and forward-facing outlook as a club, and we're happy to be flexible and do those types of things in different markets, then the partners will come on board and we'll do that activity. But it's, as I say, it's really wide-ranging, and I don't think as a club we can say we're just going to do one thing, because we have to do lots of different things to lots of different audiences and be quite nimble in how we do that.
What kind of role can you play with reaching those different audiences, building those communities with the help of Zenith coins?
Well, firstly, on the content side of things, listening to La Liga and obviously the Millwall side of things, from a product perspective, we didn't know how to present our product. We thought, do we go into fan merchandise? Do we put scarves and a lot of colour in behind it? Which we did initially. And then we put white backgrounds. I mean, again, likes of Amazon and various other retail platforms, they'll want to have just solid white background on a lot of products. But where we've found ourselves, we've put ourselves into a premium element. So our product lies within a very niche premium sector. So that's why you'll see from our website and see from our product imagery that we incorporate as much premium elements around that, with whiskey decanters, and we go up to Gleneagle sometimes and just take some shots in and around the golf course and bar. But where we engage with fans with our product, we really just want fans to appreciate the club, and it's a synergy. Once you hold our product, you won't see it through the website, you don't get it until you actually hold one. And it's a club that means something to you, that you've supported since you're a young boy, young girl, and you're really passionate about them. And if you've got a limited edition coin in your hand, it just feels so much more. But this is where we're going to go into, obviously, a very exciting chapter and the innovation of NFC, which will enhance that further.
Yeah, where do you see this going to in the next 5 years? How do you see this world expand?
So, season tickets is one topic that I've been discussing with a lot of clubs. There's 2 elements of season tickets. You can have your VIP corporate hospitality, which I think the coin comes in nicely. But for a GA, general access, we can actually create a keyring. Now, once the season ticket's been bought, that's the end. That's your ceiling. The season ticket's there. They'll come to every game, and that's you. But if we can incorporate a product which is a keyring with the ticket incorporated in there for an extra £15, £20, for example, there's an additional revenue maker there, and it's the product on your keys. So we're just trying to encourage most clubs to have an official club coin that is on the shelf 24/7, non-limited, and then any anniversaries or milestones that will come through. Jamie Vardy, for a great example, just scored in his 500th appearance, in his last appearance for Leicester City. We're producing a testimonial coin for Jamie Vardy, which have all the highlights, imagery, his stats that are based within that coin. You tap onto it, and any Leicester fan that has watched him over the past X amount of years will really appreciate that.
Yeah.
On the coins, as far as the content, going back to the content, are you limited with the content that you want to, or you can put, because you're mentioning the tickets, okay? But suddenly, if you do have a coin for a season ticket, can I then put in the option of saying pre-season trip to, you know, let's say a LALIGA club or a Premier League club going to the US for a pre-season tour?
Yeah.
And it include there and the draw to get the tickets to, or possibly to win the tickets to go to the pre-season tour?
Correct, absolutely. So we have a very dynamic background thanks to Fan NFC. We've got a strategic partnership. We've just signed up with Fan NFC, and Nick's sitting in the middle of the corridor there, which is they have the expertise of all the background. They have the application in behind. We can produce individual tickets, so every single coded tag is individual to that person. It could be predict the score competitions. We can have, oh my goodness, a message from the CEO of new sponsorship. So even have advertisements within that application for that football club. So the answer is yes.
I see business being made here just on stage. Look, we were just before the panel talking about how the subject of today is licensing, but how licensing, partnership, content, it all merged into one world. Where do you see this going in the next 5 years?
Good question. If I knew that, it would be very good. No, I think that all of this, I think sometimes we're really guilty in this industry, as much as any, is looking for kind of one thing to be the next game changer or the next big thing. I mean, there's lots of things that have been around for time and just evolve. I think it goes back to a kind of set of core principles that we've already touched on, I think, today. So in terms of, you know, fan engagement and value to fans and things like that, I think, you know, what Andrew's talking about there is really interesting in an era where we're making the season tickets more digital and moving away from physical products to then actually potentially go back to a physical product. But what we're doing is then introducing a new revenue stream. So things do kind of go full circle. But I think it's really interesting when we talked earlier about NFTs as well. You know, we kind of feel like we're in a bit of a bubble burst phase on NFTs. But I think one of the reasons for that is because no one actually fully understood the utility of it and actually started from that place of, okay, what is the benefit to the fan for this? It was just, oh, this is a nice shiny new thing. There's new money in this area. Let's go and invest in it. Actually, how can we bring through, you know, that utility? How can we bring through that element which actually adds value to the fan experience? And I think, you know, when we're talking about NFCs here in the context of the coin, that feels like there's an enhancement and there's something extra for them, for the fan when you purchase that. And there's something that we as a club then can engage with. Yeah, a coin is a physical product. It's once it's sold, it's sold. That's our relationship with that transaction gone. So unless obviously we take the data of who's bought it and on what they've bought, it's very hard to then kind of continue to engage with that fan or that person who's bought it. But I think that's probably where we'll start to see, you know, over the next couple of years, these technological advancements that allow us to actually have that relationship beyond just that transactional sort of purchase. If we can then deliver content, if we can kind of give that extra value and we can kind of keep re-engaging with those fans, and that's of use to us as a club. And it gives us greater scope to kind of, I suppose, bring in more commercial revenue over time, really. So that's quite exciting, and it's quite exciting to see how we can be innovative in that space and kind of do some new stuff there. But as I say, it always has to come back to that, you know, what is the value to the fan and what can we deliver as a club extra to those people from doing it?
Yeah, and if you give the keys to Mark Zuckerberg, nobody's holding a mobile phone in 5 years, but it will be glasses. Is that something you look into as well? Because I can imagine that brings a total different experience to your utility.
That's an excellent point. We are looking at augmented reality coins as well. So those that you can actually put through your phone, obviously initially before the glasses, but the coin comes to life. So you can have players coming up, you can have video imagery. Pretty much it's limitless in terms of what can happen with AR. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
Perfect. Guys, I would like to thank you to be here on stage with me. Give them a warm applause. Andrew Reith, Stephen Ibbotson, Luke Wilson. And we have just a couple of minutes left for any questions. Yeah.
Questions actually. One is for Stephen and one for Andrew. So in terms for LALIGA, do you guys, I know that LALIGA gives a lot of education, right? In terms of people who are interested in sports. Do you seek or have any opportunity for LALIGA to do anything in the direction of education in the Middle East and North Africa region? Because there is a lot of people, young, old, they are interested in sports, they want to work in the field of sports, but they don't have either the knowledge or the capacity to do that. Do you think like if there is any maybe licensing deal or La Liga would open up anything in terms of education for people in that region? That's one question. For Andrew, it's also regarding the Middle East and North Africa region. There is the football in the Middle East and North Africa region is like water and air for people who come from that area. And I think that your market, I mean, in the coins market, there will be a lot of potential in that region. Especially, I would mention Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Tunisia. These people live for football their whole life, and there might be a potential for that in that market. Would you consider also like thinking about it as well? Thank you, guys.
Stephen?
Okay, all right. To start off with, I don't know if you're aware, but La Liga, the structure of La Liga in Madrid, we do have an area that's called La Liga Business School. They've got MBAs, Spanish and English, Masters in Sports Marketing, Spanish and English, and there are courses in running football clubs as well as the legal masters adapted to football clubs. Okay. There are delegates in Morocco and in Egypt as well, so the information is there. I know that in the past, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, La Liga Business School did have an agreement with a university in Cairo. I'm not sure if that agreement is still active or not. Okay. And as far as Middle East, Saudi is concerned, La Liga has an office in Dubai, which runs the MENA region. I know that they have recently signed various agreements with the SPL, okay. That's, let's say, to assist the league there. I don't know if in that agreement there is part and parcel of the business school that's going to be added to that or not, but still, it's very, I mean, I'm not going to say easy, and not everyone has access to go and do a master's in Spain, especially in La Liga Business School. But beyond that, I honestly don't know all of the agreements that La Liga Business School does or has with all of the educational institutions around the world, and no longer, well, you told me no longer in Egypt. I have to check that one out, okay?
So we haven't actually started any business in the Middle East or North Africa as yet. We understand the fans are hugely passionate about football, sport in general, so it's 100% the market we're looking at. We have conversations with a couple of clubs in Saudi Arabia, which should come to fruition in Q3 this year, again on the NFC side ticketing. But with different regions, so we're looking at South America as well. We have to adopt our pricing structures to accommodate certain economies as well. So within the UK, Europe, a little bit more affluent, we can actually put a price point a little bit higher. So yes, working with clubs on that basis as well.
We should definitely talk.
Gents, thumbs up. Thanks again. Thank you all, and enjoy Sportworx the rest of your day.